Welcome. We are going to get started with day 2 of Awaken Your Story. Thank you for being here, for joining us for the second day of our 3-day workshop. My name is Elizabeth Goodrice. I facilitate the writing workshops for Awaken Village Press. And between the workshops, book editing, and ghostwriting, I have helped more than a dozen authors bring their books into the world at this point. And I truly feel that it's my calling in life to help authors bring their message onto the page in the most vivid and compelling way possible. And that's exactly what I'm here to help you do as part of this workshop, so that your message can make the impact it's meant to make in the world. So I mentioned that yesterday the journaling prompts were really designed to get you in touch with what is the message that you are here to deliver in the world with your book, with your life. And so if anyone who hasn't been through day 1, go back and check that out. But for day 2, I'm going to lead you through 2 exercises that are really designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom and creative inspiration. And then just a little sneak peek for day 3, tomorrow, it's actually not going to be recorded because it's really experiential, participatory, but it's about sharing your writing and receiving feedback. So I thought about whether to record it, and I might record the intro, something like that, but I really want you to feel that you can read something that you've written and just put it out there for whoever is listening, and you don't have to worry about somebody else hearing it on the internet. So the sharing of your writing for day 3 will not be recorded. And then of course, even if it were recorded, you would have to show up live to receive feedback. So that's really the day you want to be here if you can. And as far as what you're going to read, I'll give you a little bit more about that at the end, just some ideas, but it can be something that you've written during day 1 or day 2. If there is a part of your book that you have already written, you can read that, but it also can be just something from your journal. And I'll talk a little bit more about how to choose when we get to the end of this hour. All right, so for today, I asked you to bring an object related to a theme in your book. And that's actually for the second exercise, but just make sure you got that close by. And if you were not here yesterday, just quickly think of one object that you have in your space right now that's somehow related to the story you want to write. And don't think too hard about it, just something that's related in some way. And then once you've got that near, we're going to get started now on the first exercise, and it's called the 3-card exercise. And so I'll share my screen in a minute. I'm going to show you 3 cards I pulled for our work together today. And I had to pull them a little in advance because I wanted to photograph them so I could display them for you. But I did meditate and set an intention that the cards be related to the work that we are all meant to be doing together today. Just a few instructions before I show the cards, and you get distracted with looking at what the cards are. So you'll see 3 cards corresponding to beginning, middle, and end. And you'll have 10 minutes. And I just want you to journal about how and why those cards correspond to the beginning, middle, and end of the story you want to tell. So if you were here yesterday, or if you watched the recording, you had an introduction to something called the hero's journey as one way of structuring your story. That has 12 steps. So this beginning, middle, end structure is simplified. But if you're familiar with the hero's journey, you can kind of think of those, initial stages of the hero's journey as the beginning, the middle stages, and the end stages. And so that was why I introduced the hero's journey yesterday, that you may want to draw on that in the back of your mind as you're thinking about, what is the beginning, middle, and end of your story. What challenge is your main character facing? What problem do they have to solve? And remember that your reader might also be your hero. So you can think of the beginning, middle, and end of the journey that you're taking your reader on as they make their way through your book. Okay, let me share the cards. Are you seeing the cards? Ah, Claudia, you remember the exercise from the retreat? Yes. We do this on our retreats, but it's different every time. Okay, I'm going to assume you can see the cards. Let me know if you cannot. And there are 6 cards. Yes. So I want you to, again, without thinking about it too much, pick either the top row or the bottom row. Which set of cards are you most drawn to? And that's the one you're going to write about. I'm just going to read over them all just quickly. So the top row is from the Sacred Traveler deck. We have Answering the Call. And I swear I just drew these at random, but how perfect is that? It's one of the early stages of the hero's journey. And here it is in the beginning position in our card draw. So you got Answering the Call, Unknown Territory, and finally Surrendering to the Journey. And then the bottom row is from the Moonology deck. And the first one is Full Moon in Capricorn, the end of a tough cycle approaches. For the middle, we have New Moon Eclipse, expect powerful change. And then for the last card, we have Balsamic Moon, a time for healing. So decide which set you're going to write about as your beginning, middle, and end. Any questions about the exercise before we get started? We're going to have 15 minutes and just write about why and how this is your beginning, middle, and end. And I'm going to play a little music. And just if you have any questions, pop something in the chat. I will keep an eye on it.
لا ثورة لليش جريت قيساكر بالنت والرقي سيقود النيت قيساكر بالنت قيساقود النيت لا ثورة أنا ليش جريت ويساكر بالنت ورق سيقول النيت ساكر بالنت سيقول النيت بس النظمي تنري نري شجريت ودي قاستين مكسان العنصرية ديت ودي قاستين مكسان سورية ديت لا ثورة لا شجريت ويساكر بالنت يساقود النت كرم بالنت يساقود النت ويماني ضحية أكد البندقية تنري تفودت ضايع الحرية تنري تفودت مغايا الحرية لا ثورة للي شجري تاكرم بالنتورك ودني تساكرم بالنتورك شهداء القضية غموتان الشهداء دنيا الحرية الشهداء دنيا الحرية لا ساوها من اللي فجري
All right. Wrap up what you're writing and let's gather back together. I'm curious to hear how that was for you. What did you think of the exercise?
I can share this.
Please.
What I really like about this exercise is that it has both kind of a structure and it allows you to be creative with it, but it gives you like, okay, do this beginning, end, and you know, and the titles or the images can inspire you to be as creative as you want. So that's what I really love about it.
Yeah, beautiful. So I'll just say the first time I did this exercise, I had some resistance actually to the idea that we could take these 3 cards, just draw them and write about it and come up with something meaningful or relevant. I think what I have come to love about it is it really, every time I do it, I get something new and different and meaningful and profound out of it. So I hope that was your experience today. But it really helped me not be so attached to having the perfect conditions to write, being in the perfect mood, doing it the perfect way, all of these kind of limiting beliefs that can cause us to procrastinate, that we just feel that we're not ready. And so we just never even start. When the truth is, whatever you sit down and write, whatever you use as your inspiration for today, whatever comes out is exactly what you're meant to be writing. And it's a process of, I have a quote that I want to share right now, but it's a process of turning on the tap and letting the writing flow. It's not about structuring it perfectly or waiting until the time is right. The process of writing is very organic and it's very messy. And it's about opening up to what wants to come through. And it's about trusting yourself. So, typically this exercise would be with cards that you yourself draw. So I hope it was still helpful with the cards that I drew. But if you want to try it again on your own, you could start, if you have a practice of writing, you could start with that exercise every time you sit down to write, if you have your own card deck. Okay, I'm going to look at the chat in a minute. But so the quote here, start writing no matter what, the water does not flow until the faucet is turned on. So it's just all about turning on the faucet. I often say there are 2 steps to the process of writing a book. And the first step is really just getting the words out there and letting it be messy. And we often refer to it in Awaken Village as letting the book write you. And then later you can edit, but don't try to edit. Don't try to get it perfect while you're writing, just let it flow. Let me see what's in the chat now. Kahina says, love the idea of connecting to the bigger wisdom of life to write what needs to come through now. Yes, exactly. So you can use, as far as which deck to use, Carmela, you can use any deck that you're drawn to. So mine, the top row was Sacred Traveler and the bottom row was Moonology, but you can use tarot cards, you can use oracle cards. Those are the decks that I used, but you can really use any cards. Okay. Any other reflections or questions before we move on to the second exercise? So for the second exercise, we're going to use the object that you brought or that you have near you. We're going to have 3 minutes per question. So like yesterday, I'm going to, I'll read the questions one at a time. And I would like to invite you to keep writing the entire time. So don't think too hard. Just let the words flow. And even if what's coming out isn't even related to the question, just keep writing. The reason that we do it that way is you don't want your analytical brain to turn on. You want the analysis layer to stay turned off. So just keep writing whatever comes out, bear the question in mind, but don't limit yourself. Think about allowing what wants to come through, turn on that faucet. So there are going to be 9 questions, 3 minutes each, and this is about the object that is somehow related to a theme from your book. Any questions about this before we get started? I'm going to read the first question and I'll put it in the chat. And I'll play the music again, and I'll just stop when I read each question just to make sure that you can hear me. Okay, the first question. You look around and you see your object. How well can you see it? Where is the light coming from? 3 minutes, can write about this question until I read the next one. Okay, second question. So this is a little bit experiential. Actually, get up and do this if you can. Otherwise, do it in your mind. You walk over to your object, you approach it. How many steps did it take? Okay, the third question. Notice what objects are nearby to the object you're writing about. And one of these things reminds you of something or someone else. What does it remind you of? So one of the objects near the object you're writing about, what does it remind you of?
न तातो न माता न बन्धुर्न दाता न पुत्रो न पुत्री न भृत्यो न भर्ता न जाया न वेद्या न वृत्तिर्ममैव
Question 4, pick up your object. How heavy is it? Can you toss it in the air? So I recognize this may not be possible for every object. So if it's not possible, you can write about how and why it's not possible. Pick up your object. How heavy is it? Can you toss it in the air?
गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि भवाब्धावपारे महादुःखभीरो प्रपात प्रकामी प्रलोभी प्रमत्ता कुसंसार पाश प्रबद्ध सदाहं गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि न जानामि दानं न च ध्यानयोगम् न जानामि तन्त्रं न च स्तोत्रमन्त्रम् जानामि पूजां न च न्यासयोगम्।
Question 5. Bring the object close to your eyes, or bring your eyes very close to the object, so close that it becomes blurry. What do you see looking at it from up close? Is there some texture? What do you see that's different than when you were far away?
गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि। गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि। न जानामि पुण्यं न जानामि तीर्थं। न जानामि मुक्तिं लयं वा कदाचित्। न जानामि भक्तिं व्रतं वापि माता। गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि। गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि। कुकर्मी कुसङ्गी कुबुद्धि कुदास। कुलाचारहीन कदाचारलीन। कुदृष्टि कुवाक्य प्रबन्ध सदाहम्। गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि। गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि।
Question 6. Bring the object up to your ear, or your ear close to the object. Does it make any sound? What does that sound or lack of sound remind you of?
प्रजेशं रमेशं महेशं सुरेशं। दिनेशं निशीथेश्वरं वा कदाचित्। न जानामि चान्यत् सदाहं शरण्ये। गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि। गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि। विवादे विषादे प्रमादे जले चानले पर्वते शत्रुमध्ये अरण्ये शरण्ये सदा मां प्रपाहि गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि गति.
Question 7. Bring your nose up to the object or the object to your nose. What does it smell like and what does the scent remind you of?
गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि अनाथो दरिद्रो जरारोगयुक्तो महाक्षीणदीन सदा जाड्यवक्त्रा विपत्तौ प्रविष्ट प्रणष्ट सदाहम् गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका
Question 8. With your face very close to the object, you might as well stick out your tongue and taste it. What does the object taste like? What does it remind you of? And the last question, you're getting tired of this exercise. Get rid of your object, dispose of it somehow, and then write about how did you get rid of it? And how do you feel now that it's gone? All right. Coming back from the exercise, and I'm really eager to hear what you thought about it. If you want to put your thoughts in the chat, or I'll give you a chance at the end to unmute and share reflections and questions. I just want to go over a little bit of information for tomorrow in case anybody needs to drop off at the end of the hour. So that exercise you just completed is designed to help you really explore creating a vividly detailed world for your reader. When we talk about writing, it's almost cliche now to say you should show your reader instead of telling them. So don't just tell them what you learned that you want to share with them, tell them how you learned it. Take them on the journey with you, tell them stories, create a world, paint a scene for them with memorable characters, because stories are how the human mind remembers, learns, and integrates new information. So I hope that exercise took you on an interesting journey and gave you some practice with really just tuning into the detail of the world around you in a way that really, helps you notice things that you can then share with your reader. The exercises we did today are examples of exercises I use in our 5-month Awaken Your Book program, which is actually starting a week from tomorrow. So this workshop is designed to give you a little taste of what we do in that program. But if you are interested in completing your book, we have it set up to support you in completing your manuscript over the course of 5 months. So this is very much a small version of that program with a little bit of teaching, the hero's journey, like we went over yesterday, with some exercises, and then support from the group and from me, which is the third piece that you'll get tomorrow. So when we meet back here tomorrow, have some piece of writing ready. It could be up to, let's say, 1,500 words, but it can also be shorter, and it doesn't have to be finished at all. It can feel very rough. The focus isn't really on improving your writing, although you may get some comments to that effect, but the point of sharing is really to amplify what you're doing well. So I'll go over a little bit how to give good feedback, because we all work together as a group in the 5-month program, and also in our meeting tomorrow. Our goal will be to give each other meaningful feedback, and I'll model that, but I'll also share just some best practices for that. But I found that, first of all, reading your work, you're going to get, you just hear it in a different way when you read it out loud. It hits you in a different way. You might think of things, you're like, oh, I want to add that, or I want to say that a little differently. So just the act of reading it out loud is valuable. And then in terms of the reflections you receive from me and the group, my intention is really to help you build your confidence, and really reflect back to you what you're doing well, how distinctive and compelling your own authorial voice is. Each one of us has a distinctive voice, and it comes out when we take the time to connect with ourselves in an exercise like we just did. It's not about trying to sound like another writer. It's about trying to sound more like you and unveil what is your unique voice. So with that in mind, just start thinking about what piece of writing you might like to read tomorrow. And it could be any of the journaling that we've done for this workshop. It could be something you wrote before, or if you even have like a description of your book or an opening scene, if you want to write something tonight, but don't feel compelled to pick the perfect piece, just read what you have. And it's about the experience. So that's what we'll be doing when we get together tomorrow. And aside from that, I think those are the announcements I wanted to share. So now I'm going to share another quote, and I would love to know what you thought about this exercise. I will look in the chat in just a second. Feel free to unmute and share your thoughts or your questions about the exercise, as I am tracking down which window has the quote that I want to share with you in closing. Here it is. Okay, so wait, oh, okay. I was seeing turn on the faucet, but this is the one I just shared, and this is the one you're seeing. By releasing your story, you open the door for ever deeper levels of transformation. So although we will be sharing our work, and you'll be thinking a little more tomorrow about how your words are impacting your reader, I want to emphasize that releasing your story has value just in the way that it transforms you. So obviously, most of the time, if you're writing a book, you hope that somebody will read it and be touched by it, be transformed by it. But let's not forget that the act of writing also transforms us. And sometimes it's letting go of experiences or the growth that we ourselves experience through the act of writing. That is, in some sense, just as important of an outcome as the effect that it has on the reader. So at Awaken Village Press, we often say we're in the business of creating authors, and the books are just the byproduct. So if you're questioning the value of like, well, who's going to want to read what I have to say? First of all, people will. I know that for sure. But even setting that aside, even if nobody read it, your book still has value just in the act of writing it. All right, I'm taking a look at the chat. Yes, Kahina says, it's interesting how we can spark our creativity through everything around us. Yes, just like the cards. I mean, I asked you to choose an object related to the topic of your book and the theme of your book, but it almost doesn't matter what you choose. You can have a pretty profound experience with that exercise. She says, I didn't know I could write so much about the object I picked up. I have had that very same experience, helping to get the ball rolling, opening the faucet. And Carmela says, I'm taking away that writing doesn't need the perfect moment or the perfect time. Thank you so much. You're welcome. Yeah, beautiful. Any questions before we close? That was sort of a mic drop moment right there, but I want to open it up in case there's anything you want to ask before we wrap up. All right, I'm going to try and get the recording sent out this evening with the email, which is going to kind of recap everything that I said about, you know, what to bring or do before we meet back here tomorrow. But thank you all for being here. You can always reply to the email if you have questions in between. And otherwise, I will see you tomorrow. Thank you for being here.